Professor Anup Swarup is the founding Vice Chancellor of Jagrant Lake City University in India and Chairman of the Center of the Global Non-Killing, an international nonprofit organization focused on the promotion of change toward the measurable goal of a killing-free world. The Center for Global Non-Killing is an NGO with special consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council and a participant organization of the World Health Organization's Violence Prevention Alliance. Professor Swarup was previously Vice Chancellor of Shilpit University, a United Nations representative with the UNSC, founder, chairman of the Global Knowledge Alliance, and an officer of Indian Revenue Service and Commissioner at the Government of India. He has authored many books, including The Regional Economics Engagement and the Free Trade Agreement, and the World of Money Laundering, Financial Crimes, and Commercial Frauds. He has been a speaker, a resource person with universities and think tanks in India and abroad, including here in Australia, where he now resides, and has a partnership with Monash University. Professor Swarup will be speaking on the non-killing paradigm. Are non-killing societies possible? And I invite the guests and members tonight to please use the chat box to let me know if you have a question for our speaker so that we can have a great Q&A session at the second half of our time together. But please give our guest, a warm welcome.
A very good evening. Thank you, Renata, for your kind words. Let me, at the outset, thank everybody, especially Marion, and of course you, Renata, Peter, Mac, and all the very distinguished and eminent personalities who are present today. I know I'll fail if I do not thank really Rotary Melbourne, because this is a superb and outstanding evening, a warm Melbourne evening, as you know. And I should thank also my friend Chris, because he told me to speak here. And of course, this is a great opportunity for me. Thank you so much. As I start, I will try to limit myself to those 20 minutes which you mentioned. But I will start with a small quote, and that is from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is as per the Article 3. Everyone has the right not to be killed and the responsibility not to kill others. As you rightly mentioned, this is measurable goal, and this is something which can be achieved. And that is so important for us that we not only ensure that in our civilizational progress, we achieve our goal of human non-killing. Now let me cite and quote from Paul Coelho. We are travelers on a cosmic journey. Stardust swirling and dancing in the edges and whirlpools of infinity. Life is eternal. Yes, life is eternal. We have stopped for a moment to encounter each other as we face all of you today. To meet, to love, to share. And this is a very precious moment for all of us. It is a little parenthesis in eternity. Let me at the outset mention that we are on spaceship Earth, and it is not a metaphor, but actually a finite reality. I am trying to avoid any slide, but there was a very interesting slide which I saw, and that was by artist Pablo Carlo Budassi. Many of you must have seen the dazzling logarithmic visualization, which is of the observable universe that he created and uploaded to Wikimedia Commons about a decade back. That showed the entire sphere, and I've got this here with me. Maybe you can see it here. Of course, you will not see Earth, of course, but you cannot see even the solar system and the entire galaxy of Milky Way. My whole idea of showing you this particular visualization of universe is that we are just a pale blue dot, and we are actually the only known habitable planet in the universe. And every life here on this planet is unique. Let me now advance further and also talk, because you might be wondering why I would be talking, what is my motivation here. And when I talk of motivation, it is very important that I talk about human dignity, also about my own lifelong passion, which is for a scientific approach to our own human existence, our own evolution. Now, when I talk about this, I also would like to talk that there is a whole lot of work going on when it comes to peace, when it comes to avoiding human conflict, violence, and of course, killing. But let me assure you that this is the only path to global peace and our civilizational survival. When especially we face a global pandemic like we face today, the corona pandemic, there is mayhem, and it is after 100 years that we face a crisis situation like this. Entire earth, nobody can say that any country is safe, or any civilization or any population or any society can get away with it. Now, let me come straight away what my aim for the talk is. It is to foster a non killing worldview, to promote change towards the miserable goal of a killing free world. And this is an infinite reverence to life for universal prosperity and peace. I am, of course, as Renata mentioned, the chairman of the Center for Global Non-Killing at Hawaii. It is in consultative status with the United Nations. But this center was set up almost 2 decades back when Professor Glenn D. Page, who was actually a political scientist, and he wrote a book, Non-Killing Global Political Science. And at this center, presently we have about 600 scholars in 300 academic institutions in 71 countries who have joined 19 interdisciplinary teams. And this particular work which is going on is unique because we talk about a whole lot of things, and more particularly we talk about non-killing, because what Glendy Page found was very interesting, and it will be of some value to all of you. Non-killing, he found, and that is based on scientific research, that less than 0.5% of all humans who have ever existed on earth have actually killed another human being. This came as a surprise to many and would surprise you also. Non-killing knowledge and practices do exist on a global experience. And if these are creatively combined, we can advance our society, we can have progress and a non-killing world for each one of us. This book was published and is now translated in more than about 43 languages. Now, what actually is implied by non-killing? You might wonder, but let me tell you in a broad conception, there is a very strong nexus, a scientific one, and also there is a spiritual basis. And non-killing opposes aggression, assassinations, autogenocide, contract killing, corporate manslaughter, cultural genocide, capital punishment. Many countries, there are 114 countries across the globe who have actually abolished capital punishment, including Australia. There is democide, domestic killings, which happens here also in all advanced societies. Ethnic cleansing, which is happening in Africa. Ethnocide, femicide, feticide, gendercide, genocide, honor killing, ritual killings, infanticide, linguicide, and the list goes on. It goes on to mass murders, murders and also suicides. In all advanced societies, suicide is a very real and a serious issue when it comes to, and in fact, all of you must be watching the treasurer presenting the budget yesterday, and I was really pleased that he has earmarked $2.54 billion for mental health, and that is so important for all of us. Then I would be talking about killings, which are including policides, omnicides, infanticides, regicides, school murders and shootings. And shootings, we keep getting all those news from especially the United States. There has been structural violence, suicide, terrorism, Thrill killing also happens, unfortunately enough, in advanced societies too. Tyrannicide, violence, war, and there are many other forms of killing which are direct or indirect or even structural. So, non killing, to my mind, would not only refer to the absence of killing, but also the threats to kill. Now, there are conditions that lead to killing in human society. The term is also extended to include the killing of animals and other forms of life. You might be aware that in our world, it is such a serious issue that we are losing our biodiversity in leaps and bounds. Every day, there are thousands of species which are getting extinct. Our unique mission for non killing is aimed at both individuals and societies. And it is not only for inspirational but also for transformative purpose that I am here with you. Now, let me come to another issue, and that is what exactly is the genetic basis for non killing. You'll be surprised that many recent studies, and these are scientific ones, they've shown that in our evolutionary scale, humans diverged from mammals about 85 million years back in the late Cretaceous period. Also, from the late Cretaceous, there were fossils which were in Paleocene, and that was 55 million years back. There was rapid change during the Upper Paleolithic, and during that period, a revolution took place. And let me cite Ice Age Europe, that is 40,000 years back, when Neanderthals were replaced by Homo sapiens. It is even here that I should say that the real precursor, our own grandmother, Lucy, and I had the opportunity to visit her in a museum in Ethiopia. And a 5 feet lady, and that was sub Saharan Africa. She owes all humans the real origin. It is the emergence of cognition, of language, of consciousness, and culture that makes our species, Homo sapiens, what we are. Let me also say that civilization really goes back to 6,000 years. And if we picture the total presence of man on earth as one single day, that is very interesting. Then in these 6,000 years, life did appear, but humans, as we know them as Homo sapiens, appeared at 1156. The civilization at 1157, the development of modern societies would have started at around 11:59. That is just 1 minute back. And in the last 30 seconds, a lot of changes have happened, the known human history, as you know, and there is a lot of social change, as we know. So most of our real revolution has taken place in just about 30 seconds, and it is happening at a breathtaking pace. Now, there is a more talk about a lot of other issues. One is that the first time in human evolution, what is so important is that individual life has been become long enough. It has a cultural transformation swift enough, and the individual mind is now a constituent player in the global transformation of human culture. Now, this is happening while studies have shown that lot of changes are really transformative, adaptive. These can happen as we transform ourselves, our societies. Looking at a historical perspective, non killing was part of Buddhist ethics. It was expressed as the first precept of Panchi. And similar traditions exist throughout the world in every religion, from Christianity to Judaism to Islam to Hinduism to Jainism, and the list goes on. I would also say that non killing as a term was first used in the Charter for a World Without Violence, which was approved by the 8th World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates. Anthropological evidence points out that in certain societies and cultures, especially the tribals, killing is down to statistically insignificant levels. So humans don't kill. That also, uh, it's an evidence. But let me also cite anthropologist Margaret Mead. Many of you must have known or read about her. She once quipped that the real human revolution happened which is evidenced not from the grinding stone, not from the wheel or from the fire, but the day when fossils appeared, that femur was repaired. You know, femur is our thigh bone. It got repaired. That means that humans were taking care of other humans. And that really distinguished us from other animals. You know that animals, if they break their leg, they are not able to walk, move, or hunt for food, and they die then and there. So that is what the real difference is. I am glad that in Australia we have a broader perspective and we are looking at psychological aggression, even suicides, bullying in the schools, physical assaults, and torture, which may terrorize by manifest or latent threat to life. Actually, non-killing actually involves removal of their psychosocial causes. That is so important, and that is where a society has to pay real attention. Now, let me also talk about non-killing when it comes to lethally linked deprivations. Environmental degradation is one, and global warming is another, because we are facing threats to the viability of our own biosphere. One was ozone depletion, especially above Australia, as we all know. Non-killing presupposes not only absence of direct attacks upon life-sustaining resources of Earth, but also cessation of indirect degradations which are associated with such lethality. In relation to forms of accidental killing, non-killing also implies creation of social and technological conditions conducive to their elimination. In analysis of its causes, non-killing encompasses the concepts of peace, absence of war, and conditions conducive to war, non-violence, that is psychological, physical, structural, and I should cite ancient Indian Sanskrit word ahimsa, that is non-injury in thought, word, and deed. So I had last year published a paper which was talking about affirmative non-killing, that is producing the ways and means, the structures in our society so that we have non-killing. Now, at this juncture, let me talk about our present day context, and I'll come to two parts. One is the physical part and second is the mind. When it comes to the physical, we are talking about creating a higher profile of where physical killing takes place. It is with guns, of course, knives, assault weapons, drugs, and alcohol. Yes, these are the physical parameters, and this is where killing does take place on a daily basis across the globe. Family violence, car accidents, starvation, unrestricted abortion, the impact of COVID-19 all over the globe, unlimited euthanasia, and also capital punishment. When I talk about the mind, it is about countering the insidious global practice of killing the mind individually. It comes to shutting down the freedom of thought. It is also about suffocating freedom of expression, restriction on the freedom of creativity, banning of certain literature, rewriting ideological history, limiting freedom of association, and also legislating against the church or the temples with penalties to practice anybody's faith, religion, or belief. You'll appreciate and understand that in its broad conformity, non-killing is all about this. Now, let me also come to a very interesting index which we have created just 2 years back. And this was one of my PhD candidates while we were working. I felt that like the global peace index, we should have a global non-killing index. In our society, we found that shockingly enough, out of 183 countries, around 70 countries are facing lethal killings, in as much as these nations have become practically uninhabitable. And that is why we see the problem of refugees, which all countries face. In order to ensure statistical uniformity, reducibility, and accuracy, I have come to a conclusion and I have reduced this data out of the 171 countries to an average killing rate of 5.16. I was so surprised That average is just 5, but most of these countries are 5.16. That means on an average on earth, we have got a higher killing index. I should mention that ecocide is becoming more and more paramount nowadays. What we found that there is Anthropocene age, that is the impact of humans on our environment, that is becoming increasingly critical. I should now mention about the last year alone, there have been 15 natural disasters. There have been thousands and millions of deaths. Overall, there were 16 droughts, 32 earthquakes, 21 places recorded extreme temperature, including in Australia, 194 floods, 25 landslides, 90 storms, 4 volcanic activities, and 14 wildfire cases, including in Australia. We have been facing all this on a daily basis. I have based this data from the World Health Organization, also Amnesty International, and also when it comes to battle-related deaths, I've got this data from the Uppsala conflict database. Maybe as we go, I would like to share the graph which I have, but maybe at the end, I should mention that the 20 countries with the highest killing rate include the highest being Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Botswana, and South Sudan. But on this scale is also USA and China, where the killing rate for many reasons, when you include wars and also capital punishment, say in China, these are, an extreme. So these are the top 20 countries across the globe. So there is an onerous responsibility on each one of us. Maybe as we go, I'll try and share. But I would briefly also mention about non-killing relationship between the religions. In a study which we did at the Center for Global Non-Killing, we found that none of the religions, be it Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, or Judaism, any other religion, nobody preaches killing of others. And that is very interesting. Still, there are individuals who cite religion as a cause, religion as a reason for killings, for hatred. Let me go to a very futuristic point of view, and let me come and delve briefly to Kardashev scale. Maybe you are all aware about Kardashev. That is when physicist and futurist Carl Sagan, he proposed, followed by Michio Kaku, that humans may attain type 1 status in 100 to 200 years, type 2 status in a few thousand years, and type 3 status in about 100,000 to a million years. Of course, that would be a time when we will do interplanetary travel, when we'll find exoplanets, and when we'll find life elsewhere. The emergence of non-killing societies would not only require scholarly work across the globe, but also a global collaborative effort. I should take you to a very brief precept on the Gandhian thought, and that is, before I mention about Gandhi, I would come to the killings because of wars in the present century. You'll be surprised that there have been 100 million deaths in the last century. Democides have been 300 million. Last century was perhaps one of the bloodiest eras we have known, and that is where we need affirmative non-killing. And it becomes increasingly relevant in our world that we have non-killing. I've got a small poem at the end, which I'll briefly come to and then end, and I'll be open to questions. In these times of mindless terror, killings, revenge, and fight, ever thought of destitution, sufferings, and children's in fright? Sufferings have happened all over the world. Let us pledge and rebuild bonds, bridges and that divide, and all the blight with the Almighty. In infinite reverence we owe to life. Let each one of us be the night, mankind's creativity to guide, billions of us to advance in light. Do not despair and dread at those echoes, but trust our own conscience to be right. Faith and prayer be with us. It is high time for peace and prosperity to be humanity's delight. Let us be the billions or the trillions of stars at night. Be the hope of humanity so bright. Forever on our goal of non-killing and peace, eternal be the joy and triumph of God's might. With these words, I will end, but I would like to show you a very small screen, and that shows the world. We are not down under in Australia, we are up and above the world. And I feel that Australia can give great leadership to the whole world. And I end here, but I would say that at Australia, I want to start a Center for Global Non-Killing, so we can give great leadership to the entire world. With these words, I thank and I say that each one of us can be a center for non-killing. As Mahatma Gandhi said, I am ready to be killed, but for no reason whatever, I will never kill another human. With these words, let me thank each one of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Over to you, Renata. I'm open to questions.
Oh, thank you. That was so interesting. And, I have so many questions for you, but there are questions here in the chat box. So